Hey, this is Jake Harper from American Torah. In a previous video, I talked about the three things that you need to understand about a Bible book in order to really understand what it's talking about. Now, in this video, I want to zoom in to a specific passage within the book. And once again, there are three things that you need to understand about the passage in order to really understand what the author is trying to tell you. You need to understand the context of this passage within the book. And you need to understand the actual content. And then you need to understand the connections that this passage has to other passages in Scripture. So in the context, you need to look at the preceding passage and the following one to the one that you're actually looking at, because no verse, no sentence stands completely on its own in Scripture. Everything is related to everything else, and especially to those things that are in close proximity. Verses aren't just placed in random in Scripture. Is the author different in this passage than in the surrounding text? For example, in the Psalms, one psalm may be written by David, another psalm may be written by the son of so-and-so or some other person. The same thing in the Proverbs. Some Proverbs are written by Solomon, some are written by other men. You need to understand how this passage relates to the rest of Scripture. Another thing you want to look for are geographic references. You need to know where these events are taking place in relation to other things, as someone moving from one place to another place. This can really help you understand certain phrases and the overall context of what's happening. For example, if someone is going up from Jericho to Jerusalem, that sounds a little odd to our ears because Jericho is north, and we usually think of north as going up. But in fact, the Hebrews would have thought of going to Jerusalem as going up, no matter where you're coming from. The second thing you need to look at is the specific content of the passage. What is the overall topic that's being addressed? You don't want to interpret what's being said more broadly than the author originally intended. You need to know who is doing or saying what to whom in the passage. You need to know who those people are in order to really understand what they're saying or doing. Is there some peculiar imagery or metaphors being used in this passage? You need to understand what those things meant to the author and to his audience. And you'll need to know, significant words that are in this text that, that really impact the meaning. Words that might be unusual or words that involve the primary focus of the topic. The third thing are the connections that the passage has with other work, whether those are texts within the Scripture or even things outside of Scripture. There are references in a number of places in the Bible to extra biblical works. It's a good idea to know what those things are, and you don't have to have detailed knowledge of those extra biblical works, but you need to have at least some familiarity about why the author is referencing them and what they're about. If he references other Scripture passages, then it's even more important to go and look those things up and see what they actually say and how they might change the meaning. If you just read this passage by itself without ever referencing that other Bible passage, you might have a completely different understanding of what the author meant. Are there the metaphors and imagery, various elements like objects or materials or colors, things like that? Are there other places in Scripture where those same things are used? And do they relate to what's going on here? What do those things bring to mind to an ancient Hebrew reader? Does gold or silver or bronze have a specific meaning? Does the color blue bring something in particular to mind? Specific topics. Is this topic addressed somewhere else in Scripture, even if it uses different vocabulary or images? And how is that topic treated in that other passage, and how does it expand or change what this passage means? So even before you really look at the exact meaning of a text, there are things that you need to understand about the text in order to set the groundwork for your understanding. And these three things are really important. You need to understand the context of this passage within the book that it's in. You need to understand the major elements of the content, the words, phrases, imagery, things like that. And you need to understand the connections that this passage has to the rest of Scripture and even to extra biblical works. And in the Common Sense Bible Study course, we'll get into a lot more detail on this and even go through some examples. And I look forward to that and to the next video on this topic, on the Common Sense Bible Study topic. This is Jake Harper from American Torah. Be blessed.